Oh, did you forget? What do you mean I didn't forget? No, of course I didn't forget. I always knew it was the Stronghold beta today. Hello everyone, welcome to another video. So yes, I totally forgot, but it is the Stronghold beta for today. This is the second Stronghold beta. Wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that and some changes to the gemstore as well. I guess we'll start with that stuff there. So they've added 3 new items. First is the Honor Guard Finisher, appropriate I suppose for another PvP beta for the game type that will hopefully revolutionize TPVP, fingers crossed. They've also released a new mini. This would be the mini beetle, really not a very interesting mini at all as far as I can see. And lastly, the Daydreamer's wings. So we do get another kind of big wing set, a bit like the Raven wings, but not so ridiculous. Not everyone in the entire game is running them. We don't have some kind of big plague of these wings. They're actually more like moth wings than anything. I actually think they're pretty cool, and that completes the Daydreamer set. I do believe the Daydreamer's wings were data mined to exist a while ago, and now we've got like the Daydreamer's outfit, the Daydreamer's weapons, were they Black Lion weapons, and the Daydreamer's wings too. I'm curious how that full set will look, but I know especially on a female Asura, the whole getup kind of makes you look like a very small, almost naked Cupid fairy thing, so that's fun, right? Some other changes though, in addition to just adding a couple of new things, they're actually going to be removing a ton of stuff also from the gemstore, and so this is, I guess, to clean it up for when Heart of Thorns drops. It will be kind of interesting for expansion players, you know, fair weather players, people who will come back just for the X-Pack, zerg through it, and then leave again. It's going to be kind of funny for them to come back and then still see some of the oldest stuff imaginable on the gemstore. There's still whole categories on the gemstore that are full of just complete useless junk. Items that really aren't fair for ArenaNet to be selling. You know, some of these boosters that you get, they're really jipping new players out of money and not giving them a very good experience. But those aren't what's being removed. No, instead we're just getting a bunch of skins mostly and a couple of the picks. I'll go through the list for you guys. The original skins that were ever on the gemstore, if you guys remember from launch, or some of you may have missed it, there were 3 sets. There was the Crichton armor, there was the Profane armor, and there was the Primeval armor. I think one was medium, one was light, one was heavy, perhaps. I specifically remember at least running around in my Profane armor. If you look at some of the earliest videos on my channel, you'll see Liz looking like some kind of a bumblebee. I actually missed that look. Maybe I should go back to that at some point. But these 3 are actually being removed. Now, they do say that these will be coming back, and they even give us a timescale for it. They say next fall. So next fall could be even when Heart of Thorns comes out. I mean, so maybe these will be here when Heart of Thorns releases. It's just until then it goes away. I'll talk more about that in just a second. Then in addition, we've got the Quaggan Warrior backpack, the Winter's Day earmuffs, 2 of the fuzzy hats, the bear and the leopard one, the glowing crimson mask, the mask of the crown. I think I have both of these unlocked. The sailor's beanie, I know I have unlocked, like my birthday, not this year, but the last year. A friend of mine found out and actually ended up buying it for me. Top hat and reading glasses. And then lastly, we have a bunch of the gathering things. So the Frost Wasp logging tool, the Tireless logging minion, the Tireless harvesting minion, the bone pick, the fused molten logging axe, the molten alliance mining pick, and the fused molten sickle. It's interesting. I really have no incentive to buy these at all. As someone who, yes, I play alts, but I'm happy enough to just use Orichalcum stuff on those alts. I have just got the 3 original unlimited things and left it there. I wonder about people who go really full on into this idea of making a themed character like a necromancer who has all 3 of the undead style gathering things too. I've certainly never gone that full distance. But so let's talk about them removing them. What's the purpose here? If it's not just to clean up for Heart of Thorns, especially considering they could be back by the time it drops, why do they do it? I guess it's just so that people feel like they have to buy now. You know, like people might think, oh, I want my full wardrobe for when Heart of Thorns drops. I'm still disappointed in the way that the wardrobe works and bundles all these skins in together. But yeah, maybe a little bit anti-consumer, but it's certainly not new for ArenaNet, and I do think it's a bit cluttered right now anyway. Alright, so let's talk about Stronghold. Now, I didn't play too much, but there have been a few changes to the game type in response to the last beta we had. Now, it looks like from the feedback they took of the previous beta, they decided that the actual Lord fight itself needed to be a little bit more intense. Perhaps this also disincentivizes some of the like Zergy strategies, but then they've also actually removed a significant number of guards on the way up, so they've made the Lords, or getting to the Lords at least, less defensible. Which is interesting to me because no matter what game I played, whether it turned into like a very aggressive kind of aggro game where people were just rushing the lords very quickly and it was over within 2 minutes, or whether I played longer, more control-y games, to borrow Hearthstone terms here, where they went on for a long time and people were playing for the legends and so forth, the middle area between the gates where they removed a bunch of these guards actually always got blown through very fast. So, you know, they're just saying, oh, we don't want this to be a factor in the game anymore, or what? You know, it's hard for me to make comments on the balance of the game type because I feel like I haven't played it enough. And it's been very interesting looking at feedback where, on the one hand, I've heard players say, oh, it's far too easy to rush through. And with the same breath, you see other people saying, no, these Zergy strategies might work on players who don't really know what's going on and low tier PvPers, but actually at the high level it's not working at all. I really don't know where I sit. I feel like I haven't played enough, and maybe that's a problem with running betas this short. Anyway, it's not my job to figure out how they deal with the feedback. Let's have a look at the changes they've made themselves, shall we? First of all, a number of crates and boxes have been added inside the strongholds around the Lord Gate to provide opportunities for line of sighting. This is important, especially within the stronghold itself, like if they're talking about the Lord Room here, because it was very open before and there wasn't much play with the terrain you could make, and hopefully this will rectify that a little. Overall, a minor change. They say they made a number of terrain changes. A lot of people broke out of the map before. I'm assuming this is to fix the map breakouts, but we'll see whether any videos start popping up already of people already breaking out again. And they say, importantly here, that they kind of double up on this, but they say that they realigned the trebuchets to be able to hit Mist Essence summoning areas. So for those of you who don't remember about the Stronghold, at various time thresholds, which they'll talk about in just a second, you will have the opportunity to spawn a powerful ally for your team, and you go over to these Mist Essence summoning areas. You press F. If you're CC'd, then it's interrupted, but if you manage to get the channel off, you can summon this ally for you. And now they've actually changed Trebs so that it can hit these spots too, which is important because Trebs obviously CC and will interrupt the people channeling them. I think this is important because even though I haven't played that much, I do feel like there's been very little reason to get on Treb. Maybe it's just because I'm bad at it, and maybe because it's too early for me to really know about very well effective known strategies. But whenever I've got on the Treb, or whenever I felt like damaging the enemy team's Treb, it's felt completely unrewarding previously. But now there's a bit more you can do with it. You can, yes, destroy a ton of terrain. You can, yes, hit the courtyard area in the middle, which will allow you to deny supply or support your allies in the team fight. But now even through other areas of the game, that Treb's going to be useful too, and I like that they're incentivizing it because it really did seem underused as a mechanic, and it is going to create more variation in the way different teams tackle handling the map because there's so many objectives to go for. Anyway, they talk a bit about the Lord themselves. As I explained, they've tried to make this a bit harder at least, or more engaging. The Lord basically became Lieutenant Kohler from Ascalon Catacombs. So they say he's got a new skill. The Lord will execute an attack that pulls nearby enemies in, knocks them down, and then does a devastating 360-degree spin. Don't let it hit you. This spin also applies bleed and weakness. I think it's those two conditions. This is exactly what Kohler does, the main champion you kill in the center of Ascalon Catacombs in all 3 explorable paths. So, and you'll see in the footage here, you can actually reflect those little individual projectiles if you like, or you can actually just dodge roll them while remaining at a distance. It does mean that certain melee specs have to be more careful about when they move in, and the Lord fight did feel more fun now. Before, the Lord wasn't really doing too much stuff. Well, now he does do things, but it's got very obvious tell, very obvious wind up to it, and it's easy to play around. You know, you move around him while the spin's going on, and then you move in again. So it's something that actually encourages awareness in players, and it's something that supports defenders too. Seemed really fun while I was in there. They did some like housekeeping stuff. So they say you can no longer resurrect the Lord after the match ends. Not true, actually. If you look at the footage, the second game I'm showing you guys today, the Lord will be resurrected after the match ends. I do think that, even though it's something minor and really doesn't affect the flow of the battle or anything like that, it is, for the purposes of casting, for spectating, for it just feeling like a robust game type, it is probably better that we're not resurrecting the Lord after it's been killed, because it kind of undervalues that victory, right? If then you're all celebrating while in-game, the Lord that you just killed is actually slaying your entire team again. And similarly, they also say that if your enemy Lord is killed, then your allied Lord will cheer at the end along with the rest of your team. So if you're in some kind of cool clutch situation where you're trying to defend your Lord while the rest of your team are making some desperate last-ditch attempt to kill the enemy Lord and you succeed, your Lord, you'll actually see him cheer alongside you, so that's nice. My first impression of this was, well, that's stupid because you're never going to see the Lord, but of course there's going to be multiple Lord fights going on at once in a lot of these games. So they did change the Lord Room defending NPCs as well, and they say that the locations for them are now exactly identical between the two strongholds. I didn't even know this was not the case before. Obviously a huge issue. It is not an asymmetric map. Maybe visually, art-wise it is, but certainly not mechanically it shouldn't be. So all the NPCs are in the exact same spot now. I don't know, maybe that was opening up unfair LOS positions before or something, and now they fixed that. But they also say that the NPCs in the stronghold itself have had their health increased by 10%. A 10% tweak? Really? Are we in that fine-tuning of a stage at the moment that a 10% tweak has been a big thing? I personally think this is going to make jack difference at all. But hey, maybe when they have an ally with them, like a champion ally with them that you've summoned, and they get that 50% damage reduction, does that mean 10% health is now worth 20% while it's there, and then that maybe is more of a pronounced difference? Anyway, yes, they say that one set of guards between the inner and outer gate have been removed, which is a total of 4 guards. I don't know why at all. It would have been really nice to have some justifications on these. ArenaNet did used to do patch notes, and they'd have little developer comments after it. Maybe they were sick of being critiqued by morons on their justifications at some point, but this would be really cool to see. Get a bit of feedback from them on why they made the changes that they made. You know, what feedback did they listen to that caused them to eventually do this? I'm not particularly offended by this change. I just don't understand it. The next one is Mist Essences. Now, they changed when the Mist Champions spawn. Now, the first one's going to spawn at 12 minutes, the next at 9, the next at 6, and the next at 3. And it's either the last one or it's the 6-minute one that will actually spawn both at once, the double spawn. And also, it's normalized now. Instead of you not really knowing where it's going to be, the team that is losing on the very first spawn of a champion, that's the side that will get the champion, like it will spawn closest to them. So both teams now will always know where that first champion spawns, so there's going to be a bit more play to that. But it is in favor generally of the defending side, so we may see some really weird like metagame strats where you have like a winning team lets the enemy team get a bit deeper into their base, just like lets the Doorbreaker stay alive, just so that then they are technically the losing team and they can flip it, right? So think about this. It's going to be 12 minutes soon. In 30 seconds, that thing is going to spawn. And there's a very marginal difference between which team is in the lead right now. You're defending. You, obviously the enemy team thinks that they're going to get the Mist thing spawned right next to them. So they're going to prepare for that. They're maybe going to move 2 of their roamers over to that location. And then you trick them by just at the last second. I don't know how plausible this is going to be. Maybe you could keep a Doorbreaker perma-blind until just when you want him. You let him hit the gate, and then you flip that location on the enemies. They're all expecting to spawn next to them. Oh no, it doesn't. You have one of your own guys just waiting nice and comfortably, and he quickness channels it or something for himself. Voila, you've just got yourself almost a free champion for doing a cool little trick. I like the idea of that. It's a bit metagamey, but if someone had the perception, like a defender, to pull that off, like a thief that's defending with lots of blinds, yeah, I like the thought of that. That's the kind of thing that would get an audience very hyped in a tournament. Though, having said all that, I am now realizing it says behind on score, but I'm sure it's still manipulatable. Lastly, they have a couple of generalized changes. They changed the name of the NPCs, which used to be Archer, Soldier, etc. They're just all guards now. And there's some minimap stuff too. One of the changes was a lot of the objective icons only used to appear on the minimap after the game began. And that sounds fine for us as players, and especially veteran players who already understand how it works. But for new players, it's nice to be able to use those 2 minutes to mouse over the various objectives, get familiar with the map, and also specifically when it comes to casting, I think they made this change so that casters can, in the 2-minute wait, explain to their audiences who may not be so familiar with Stronghold, hey, here's how the map works, and they can pull up the big map and all the icons are there for them, rather than having to do some guesswork early on. I think that would be primarily motivated by that. Last big change is the way supply works. Before, you could hold 3 supply. If you already had 2 supply and you killed an enemy who dropped some supply, you could go up to 3. That's no longer a thing. You can only have 2 supply, but now when you die, you don't just drop 1 supply, you will drop both supply. So yeah, there's a change there. It's difficult to really assess why this change was made. Maybe they just didn't think it made much sense being able to have the 3 supply at once. But yeah, now it's much more obvious. It's 2 supply max, and if you die, you drop all your supply. There you go. That's the way that it works. So that's Stronghold. My games today, I played a Mediguard, totally classic normal build, and I played a very glassy, kind of YOLO triple kit Condi NG. Before, on the previous beta, I was much more excited about the idea of builds changing and developing new strats with some friends and seeing, you know, whether I could run the healing Ellie or whether I could run an Auramancer Ellie. This time, I've just gone into it the perspective that many others have. It's like, oh, the meta is the meta. Let's not try and change things. Let's just run builds that we know are strong. I know Mediguard is strong and I'm okay at it, so I decided to play that. I know that the Condi NG would be pretty good for slowing down incoming door breakers, so I ran that. Also, it happened to be a double NG daily today, and getting that last glorious chest just let me craft my Gift of Fortune, so yeah, I have no regrets about the characters I played. Both times I ran more defense rather than offense, and I pretty much ignored the supply game too. As a defender, there really isn't much opportunity or reason for you to play with supply, and I believe one of the biggest criticisms still with Stronghold is archers are kind of useless. You can just kill enemy NPCs on your own if you want. Like, no one's really sending their NPCs up unassisted and letting archers deal with aggression from enemy NPCs. So they just seem kind of silly to use, especially consider this. Once you're in the Lord Room, why would you want to play with that supply or spawn those archers? They're not going to help you that much. And particularly as a defender, I found I wasn't playing with supply too much. I was just killing oncoming NPCs, killing oncoming players. On the second game, it was a pretty fun game. I don't know whether I'm only saying that because I won it, and it went on for quite a long time. There was a reasonable amount of push and pull. But in this situation, I actually took a gamble, and even though I knew an enemy champion was coming in to assault my lord, and I was leaving just a Mesmer behind who didn't seem to be doing too well, I decided to try and push the enemy lord, and I guess you guys will have seen exactly how that went. I'm still really liking the game type. I would have liked maybe some more significant changes between this beta and the last, but it's nice to see that there are changes at least, and that they're listening to feedback, and I wonder what the community in general will be feeling of the map after this beta. But yeah, you can jump in and play it unranked just like you could before, guys, for the next 24 hours. Just thought I'd let you know. That's what's going on today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you've been thinking of Stronghold. Is it as good as you remembered it, or are you losing some hype? And I guess I'll see you next time.